The moment I tasted the strange bitterness in my evening tea, I knew something was wrong. My heart froze. My husband smiled at me as if nothing happened. That night, instead of drinking it, I secretly spat it out and pretended to fall asleep. What I witnessed when he thought I was unconscious shook me to my core. My name is Emily. I am 30 years old, a wife of 5 years, and I thought I had found my safe place in life. Michael, my husband, was everything a girl could dream of when I first met him. Charming, confident, ambitious. He swept me off my feet, and when he asked me to marry him, I didn't even hesitate. But love is a dangerous thing when it blinds you. In the beginning, our marriage felt like a fairy tale. We traveled, we laughed, we shared secrets under the moonlight. He used to bring me flowers, write me little notes, and hold my hand even in crowded places. For years, I believed he was my forever. But lately, things had changed. Michael grew distant, cold. His late-night phone calls, whispered conversations in the garage, sudden business trips that never made sense, they all began piling up inside my mind like bricks, building a wall between us. One evening, when he handed me my cup of tea, I noticed something strange. The liquid was slightly darker, and when I took a sip, a sharp bitterness touched my tongue. It was not the taste of my usual chamomile. I looked up at Michael. He was watching me closely, too closely. His smile seemed forced, his eyes darting as if waiting for something to happen. My instincts screamed, but instead of accusing him, I smiled back. Slowly, carefully, I pretended to sip the whole thing, excusing myself afterward to the bathroom where I spit every drop into the sink. My heart pounded as I rinsed my mouth, wondering if what I feared could possibly be true. That night, I slipped under the blankets and pretended to sleep. My breathing slowed, my body motionless. Minutes later, I heard the faint creak of the door. Michael's shadow entered the room. I fought the urge to open my eyes, to confront him. Instead, I stayed still, my heart hammering so loudly I was sure he could hear it. I felt him standing over me. His presence was heavy, suffocating. Then, the sound of drawers, opening my bedside drawer, my jewelry box, papers being shuffled. He was searching for something, and then, in the dim light, I saw him pick up my purse, my ID, my insurance documents. I wanted to scream, to jump up, to demand why. But I forced myself to stay limp. And then came the worst moment. He leaned down, brushed my hair aside, and whispered something so chilling I still feel it echoing in my bones. Just one more night, Emily. Just one more. The next morning, I woke up pretending like nothing had happened, but inside, my soul was burning. What exactly was my husband planning, and why did he want me asleep to do it? The morning after that strange night, I forced myself to act normal. I smiled. I asked Michael if he wanted pancakes for breakfast. I kissed his cheek before he left for work. On the outside, I looked like the same Emily I had always been, but inside, I was breaking apart. Every time he looked at me, I wondered, does he already know that I know? I spent most of the day pacing in the living room, my mind running wild. What had he whispered to me? Just one more night. One more night for what? By evening, I had decided I couldn't just sit back. If Michael was truly hiding something dangerous, I had to uncover it. When he came home, he seemed different, too calm, almost rehearsed. He handed me a cup of tea again. This time, I didn't pretend to drink it. I simply switched it. While he was distracted checking his phone, I replaced our cups, and then, I waited. At first, nothing happened. We sat together, him scrolling through his messages, me pretending to watch TV. Then I noticed it, the way his eyelids grew heavier, the way his shoulders slumped. He rubbed his forehead, muttering something under his breath before excusing himself to lie down. My chest tightened. It was true. He had been drugging me. I went to the kitchen, shaking, and found the little bottle he had been keeping near the spice jars. The label was torn, but I could read enough, so a strong sedative, a sleeping pill. My legs felt weak. He wanted me unconscious, but why? That night, when he woke again around midnight, I pretended to be asleep like always. I heard him moving about in the dark, and then his voice, careful, almost trembling. Yes, tomorrow night, it'll be done. Don't worry. She doesn't suspect a thing. He was on the phone. I strained my ears. The documents are ready. The insurance will clear in a week. After tomorrow, we'll finally be free. Insurance. My blood ran cold. I had a life insurance policy set up by my parents when I married Michael, worth a significant amount of money. I had barely thought about it in years, but now it all made sense. Michael didn't want me asleep so he could steal from me. He wanted me asleep so he could get rid of me. The woman on the other end of the call laughed softly. My stomach turned. He wasn't working alone. I gripped the sheets under me to keep from shaking, praying he wouldn't notice my breathing. Every nerve in my body screamed to sit up, to shout, to end this nightmare. But I stayed silent, gathering the truth piece by piece. When he hung up, he came back into the bedroom. For a terrifying moment, he just stood there, watching me. I could feel his gaze on my face, heavy and suffocating. My pulse thudded in my ears. And then he whispered, "Tomorrow night, Emily, tomorrow night, it's all over." I held my breath until he finally lay down beside me. My mind raced. I had only one day to figure out how to survive my own husband. The next morning, Michael kissed my forehead before leaving for work. To anyone else, it might have looked loving. To me, it felt like the cold touch of death. I sat frozen for a long time after the door shut. The man I had built my world around was planning to kill me. The man I had once trusted with my heart wanted to bury me for money. Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't have the luxury to cry. I had 24 hours to save myself. I started with his study. Michael always kept it locked. But that morning he had forgotten his keys on the counter. My hands shook as I slipped inside. The room smelled faintly of his cologne and ink. On the desk were paper stacks of them. I flipped through, my heart hammering with every turn. Bank statements, copies of my insurance policy, even documents with my forged signature. My stomach lurched. He had planned everything down to the last detail. Then, tucked inside a folder, I found something that shattered the last piece of my heart. Photographs. Michael and another woman, laughing, hugging, kissing. Her name was scribbled on the back of one, Clara, so it was true. He wasn't just after the money. He was in love with someone else, or at least what he thought was love. And I was the obstacle in their way. The betrayal cut deeper than the fear. Every kiss he had given me, every "I love you," had been a lie. Suddenly, the floor creaked behind me. I froze. "Emily," Michael's voice called from the hallway. He was home early. I scrambled, shoving the papers back into the drawer and locking it again. I ran to the living room just as he entered. His eyes scanned me carefully, almost suspiciously. "You okay?" I forced a smile. Just tired." He nodded slowly, watching me far too long before heading upstairs. That night, he tried again with the tea. I accepted the cup, my hand steady, even though my insides quivered. I didn't drink. I knew better now. Later, when I feigned sleep, he moved quietly through the room. This time, though, he didn't just take papers. I saw the glint of something in his hand. A knife. He stood over me, breathing heavily, the blade trembling slightly. For what felt like eternity, he didn't move, just stared down at me. I nearly screamed. My whole body wanted to run. But then, his phone rang. The sound pierced the silence. He cursed under his breath and slipped out of the room, leaving me shaking so violently the bed trembled beneath me. It was only a matter of time. I knew then, if I didn't act soon, the next night would be my last. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound in the house made my blood run cold. By morning, my decision was clear: if I stayed, I would die. But running blindly would only make me easier to find. Michael was clever, and desperate men are dangerous. I needed proof, and I needed to turn the tables. I waited until he left for work, then returned to his study with shaking hands. This time, I didn't just look, I photographed everything. The forged documents, the insurance policy, the photos of him with Clara. Piece by piece, I built my case. Then, I called Detective Harris, the officer who had handled a neighborhood burglary months ago. My voice trembled as I explained everything. At first, I could hear the doubt in his silence. But when I emailed the pictures, his tone changed instantly. "Emily," he said firmly, "don't go anywhere tonight. We'll handle this." The hours dragged like years. By the time Michael came home, my nerves were stretched thin. He smiled as if nothing was wrong. But I saw the tension in his jaw, the way his hand brushed against his pocket too often. Dinner was quiet, too quiet. He watched me with eyes that no longer pretended to be kind. Afterward, he poured me another cup of tea. "Drink," he said softly, almost like an order. I lifted the cup, my hands calm for the first time, because I knew what was coming. I pretended to sip, then set it down. He leaned forward, his voice low. "You know, Emily, sometimes things just happen. Tragic things. And people move on." It was the last sentence he ever said to me as a free man. The door burst open. Officers flooded the room, guns raised, voices sharp. Michael froze, his face straining of color. "Michael Turner," Detective Harris barked. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder and fraud." The knife clattered from Michael's pocket as he was forced to the ground. His eyes met mine, wild with betrayal, not that I had betrayed him, but that his perfect plan had crumbled. I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. I simply watched as the man I had once loved was dragged away in handcuffs. Later, when the house was quiet again, I sat alone in the living room. My hands trembled, but not from fear this time. From freedom. The truth was brutal. But it was mine. The person who vowed to protect me had been the one I needed protection from. And yet, I survived. Michael had wanted me buried in silence. Instead, he was the one locked away, and I was left standing broken, but alive.